On National Persian Gulf Day, the Iranian Americans for Liberty proudly honor Iran's historic expulsion of Portuguese forces from Hormuz in 1622, an enduring symbol of our nation's sovereignty and strength. The Persian Gulf is more than a vital waterway, carrying 20% of global oil and a third of world trade. It's a cornerstone of global commerce and an unshakable part of Persian identity. For over 2,500 years, from the Achaemenid Empire to today, it has been known as the Persian Gulf, a name rooted in history, geography, and international law. Ancient historians like Herodotus and Strabo, alongside countless historical records, maps, and United Nations documents, confirms this undeniable fact. Iranian Americans for Liberty stands firm in defending the name and legacy of the Persian Gulf, rejecting politically motivated distortions. This is more than a name, it's a reflection of Iran's proud cultural and historical heritage. Mohsen Langarneshin, a prisoner accused of spying for Israel, was executed in Ghazalhezar prison, Karaj. He had been arrested by security forces and spent 20 months in detention, 12 of which were under intense interrogation in Ward 209 of Evin Prison, controlled by the Ministry of Intelligence. Charges against him included collaboration with Mossad, involvement in the assassination of Sayyid Khodai, and filming in sensitive areas. However, his family and sources close to the case insist his confessions were extracted under torture and promises of leniency. Despite filing 3 formal appeals for retrial, all were rejected without explanation. Before his execution, Langarneshin was transferred to solitary confinement. Prison documents initially mentioned only imprisonment, a financial penalty, and asset restitution, with no indication of a death sentence. Nevertheless, Judge Abul Qasim Salawati issued the execution order, which was later upheld by the Supreme Court. On the night before the execution, his parents released emotional videos from their final visit with their son, asserting that he had been condemned without a fair trial. They called on the public and international human rights organizations for help. Kazem Ali-Nejad Baranlu, a monarchist political prisoner held in Evin prison, was transferred to Taleghani Hospital in Tehran and hospitalized to undergo surgery on his injured hand. Previously, he had staged a protest against the lack of medical care and the authorities' insistence on transferring him in prison clothes. Due to the lack of proper treatment, 3 of his fingers had become disabled. Mr. Ali-Nejad, who also has a history of self-immolation while in prison, has been sentenced in multiple cases to a total of 16 years in prison along with additional social restrictions. Negar Korkur, sister of death row political prisoner Mojahid Korkur, was laid to rest under heavy security in Takht-e-Kashan village of Ize after her body was transferred from Germany to Iran. She had passed away in Germany due to cancer. Mojahid Korkur, her brother, is one of the detainees from the nationwide uprising in Iran, who has been sentenced to death. His case has sparked widespread outrage and concern both domestically and internationally. Clashes erupt at protests by families of Bandar Shahid Rajaei blast victims on the 7th day following the deadly explosion at Shah Bandar Rajaei port in Bandar Abbas. A protest held by families of the missing turned tense as security forces intervened, leading to clashes. The families had gathered at the entrance of the port demanding transparent information about the fate of their loved ones who remain unaccounted for. truck drivers in Mashhad held a symbolic demonstration of mourning and solidarity following the tragic explosions in Bandar Abbas that had left the nation in shock. In a heartfelt gesture, the drivers decorated their trucks with black banners and signs expressing condolences and unity. With their headlights turned on a traditional sign of mourning, they formed a slow-moving convoy through the city and along nearby roads. Furthermore, a group of truck drivers in Kashan showed solidarity with fellow citizens mourning the victims of the Bandar Abbas explosions. They adorned their vehicles with mourning banners and drove in organized lines along with the roads with their headlights on, turning the highway into a moving tribute of compassion and national unity. Their silent procession was a powerful expression of grief and empathy in the face of collective tragedy. A number of bakers from Qom province gathered in front of the governor's office to protest the non-payment of bakery subsidies and the unchanged price of bread. The protesters chanting slogans such as "Enough with the promises, our tables are empty," called for immediate action to address their professional demands and improve their dire economic conditions. Retirees from the telecommunications sector in Tehran, Kermanshah, Isfahan, Elam, Kurdistan and Tabriz held a protest march to voice their frustration over the deteriorating economic conditions and to demand that their long-standing grievances be addressed. The retirees, many of whom are struggling to meet basic living expenses, criticized the authorities for their continued negligence and unfulfilled promises. Carrying banners and chanting slogans, they called for immediate adjustments to their pensions and for the government to fulfill its obligations. Participants stressed that they would continue their protests until tangible steps are taken to improve their living conditions. Retired oil industry workers in Ahvaz gathered in protest in front of the Oil Pension Fund building. The demonstrators raised slogans condemning poverty, inflation, and government interference in the fund's resources, voicing their deep frustration over their deteriorating living conditions. In a show of national solidarity, the retirees also expressed sympathy with the grieving people of Bandar Abbas who were mourning the victims of the recent explosions, chanting "People of Bandar Abbas, condolences, condolences." Pensioners and retirees from the steel and mining sectors staged a protest march in Isfahan decrying the worsening economic conditions and the repeated broken promises of the Islamic Republic officials. The demonstrators, many of whom have been struggling to survive on insufficient pensions, demanded immediate action to address their long-standing grievances. Retirees and pensioners from the Social Security Organization held a protest in Shush, voicing their frustration over worsening living conditions and demanding that their long-ignored demands be addressed. The demonstrators, many struggling to make ends meet, called for fair adjustments to their pensions in line with inflation and the rising cost of basic necessities. A group of landowners from the Havani Ruz residential area in Kermanshah gathered in front of the provincial governor's office to protest the authorities' ongoing neglect of their demands. According to videos shared online, security forces fired warning shots in the air in an attempt to disperse the protesters. A video circulating on social media shows fans of Taj Istiqlal football team chanting the national slogan "Reza Shah, rest in peace" as they exited Arya Mehr Azadi Stadium at the end of the match between Taj and Pekan. The slogan, which has become a symbol of opposition to the Islamic Republic and nostalgia for the Pahlavi era, was loudly echoed by the crowd, reflecting a political undercurrent that continues to surface in public gatherings such as football matches.
روحت شاه، رضا شاه، روحت شاه.